When I say that Cinderella saved Disney, what does that actually mean? It's not just an opinion that I hold, it really is a fact. The studio was in a delicate place in the late 40s, and had Cinderella lost money, it likely would have signaled the end of everything. No more Disney features, no television programs, and no Disneyland. So how did Cinderella accomplish this heroic feat? Stick around to find out. Let's get into it. Let's do a very quick and unnuanced history of Walt Disney Animation Studios up to this point. So, against all odds, Walt makes Snow White and it's a huge success. His next few movies, while fantastic in quality, flop financially due to World War II cutting off the foreign market. The studio cuts a few corners to make Dumbo for cheaper, which turns a little profit and allows them to make Bambi, but once again, that film loses money. Disney Animation completely pivots and starts making military training and propaganda cartoons for the war. They also ditch the single narrative feature in favor of anthology package films. This was, of course, a survival-based move, and it worked because the little package films that could just managed to keep the studio afloat until Walt decided that it was make or break time. With the studio $4 million in debt, which was a lot back then, he knew it was time to roll the dice and return to his original vision. Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan all went into development, but when it came time to decide which one should release first, Walt knew he had to go with Cindy. He felt that the story had warmer characters and showed more similarities to Snow White. As usual, Walt made the right choice. RKO Radio Pictures released Cinderella on February 15, 1950, and it became Disney's biggest critical and commercial hit since Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It earned $8 million, 84.9 adjusted for inflation, which was the most ever for the studio. Cinderella was also the third biggest hit overall in 1950. Just as Snow White was a massive risk, so was Cinderella. These two princesses share many similarities that go beyond like story elements. They both had that elusive secret ingredient of Walt's stellar intuition. Cinderella made a lot of money, and not just at the box office. The music of Cinderella was a big draw for the film. Walt sought out songwriters from Tin Pan Alley, a collection of music publishers and songwriters in New York City that dominated the popular music of the US in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Thanks to the contributions of Al Hoffman, Mac David, and Jerry Livingston, multiple songs from the movie became smash hits, including the catchy and repetitive Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. The first song they wrote for the film was A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes, and Walt is reported to have reacted to it saying, "That'll do." The soundtrack was also nominated at the Oscars along with the movie's score and sound. Anticipating/hoping for some big hits on the soundtrack, Disney decided to release the music of Cinderella under their own film company, which was somewhat revolutionary at the time. It was a great move because the soundtrack was #1 for a whole entire year. Disney also sold loads of merchandise surrounding the film. When combining the revenue generated from the box office, soundtrack, and merchandise, Cinderella would make enough money to not only save the studio, but to create its own distribution company, Buena Vista Pictures, finance several future live-action and animated features. It launched the Silver Age, which I think is their best ever era in animation, delve into television production, and best of all, in my opinion, begin building Disneyland. It can't be glossed over how big of a return to form Cinderella was. Disney naturally had many ups and downs over the course of their history. Snow White kicked everything off on a high note. World War II nearly caused their demise. Then Cinderella swooped in just in time to save it all. After Walt's death, the studio went back into struggle mode, and then it was the Little Mermaid's turn to save the day. The difference with The Little Mermaid revitalizing Disney is that they were already very well established at the time. The classic hits of the Silver Age and Disneyland already existed. If Disney went under with Cinderella, Disney's impact on pop culture wouldn't have been nearly as big. They had yet to truly make their mark. It's been said that if you love Disney as it exists today, you have one movie to thank: Cinderella. It opened so many doors that have led to countless branches of the company we still know and love today. She's inseparable from and invaluable to their entire brand. The best example of this is the fact that Cinderella Castle is now the most recognizable icon of the Disney company outside of the mouse himself. It's literally their logo and the centerpiece of some of their parks. It's been heavily theorized that Walt himself related to the Cinderella story and character. It's a tale all about transformation, and Cinderella's status as a likable underdog whose dreams come true is inspiring. No wonder Walt and countless others have seen themselves reflected in this narrative. It's a timeless story that continues to age like fine wine. I find it really interesting that in all the reiterations of Cinderella over the decades, Disney's animated version is still the one most of us picture in our minds when thinking of the fairy tale. One of the most notably distinct elements of Disney's version is the subplot with Lucifer and the mice. This was actually Walt's idea, and it helped the movie appeal to a broader audience. The film has heart, and thanks to our animal pals, it also has humor. Author and film historian John Canemaker said, "It's one of those classic films that you can hang entertainment on because the story is so bare bones." I'll admit that I think there's a few too many antics between cat and mice, but overall it was a great choice for the movie. I'd also be amiss if I didn't mention the contributions of the 9 Old Men and Mary Blair towards the look of the film. Cinderella is a god-tier animated Disney movie visually, and it's thanks to these talented people that it looks the way it does. It remains among the studio's best. In a fittingly ironic fashion, Disney's creation of the Cinderella story put into motion their very own version of the story in real life. The studio's turn from near rock bottom to being in the best position they'd ever known parallels Cinderella's journey from rags to riches. I guess sometimes life really does imitate art. I know that for a long time, in my mind, Cinderella wasn't especially different in any way from the fellow Disney classics of its time. Not to take anything away from it, but I always just considered it to be another Disney staple. Brett White of Decider.com expands on this line of thinking, saying, "But since Disney has always been great about lionizing its back catalog, all of the classic films seem about as groundbreaking as all the rest. You'd never know from their high status in pop culture that Pinocchio, Dumbo, and Bambi were all flops during their initial theatrical runs. That's why even if you love Cinderella, you might not be aware that the film accomplished something remarkable. The film saved Disney." Walt's biggest risks were historically also his biggest triumphs, and it just goes to show what a rare visionary he was. Those risks often weren't just for the sake of it though. They needed to happen. Being the entertainment juggernaut they are today, Disney hasn't been in survival mode for a long time, and because of this, I feel that they've gotten stagnant. I'd love to see them change the game and become pioneers in their field once again. Unfortunately, it might take a downfall first for that to happen, and who knows if that's even possible now. Walt did some things out of survival, yes, but ultimately he wanted his company to not only survive, but thrive. He wanted to make something successful, something to be proud of, and Cinderella certainly was that. Time magazine wrote that Cinderella is beguiling proof that Walt Disney knows his way around fairyland. Harking back to the style of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, a small army of Disney craftsmen have given the centuries-old Cinderella story a dewy radiance of comic verve that should make children feel like elves and adults feel like children. I absolutely love Disney's Cinderella, and I only gain more love for it as the years go by. It's wonderful on its own, but putting into perspective just what it achieved and made possible for Disney going forward really is incredible. I think this line sums it up best. The magic was supposed to last until midnight, but it's been going for 70 years, and I'm sure it will only continue. Thank you, Walt, and thank you, Cindy. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something new and maybe gained some appreciation for the lovely film that is Walt Disney's Cinderella. The film just recently celebrated its 73rd anniversary on February 15th, so that's pretty cool and also appropriate timing. Happy birthday, Cindy. You're getting old now. If you liked this video, consider hitting like and subscribe, and head over to the Trove to check out more video essays, rankings, trivia videos, and more. To keep on the topic of celebrating Cinderella, if you're a fan of this princess story, leave a comment down below telling me your favorite part of the movie. Thanks again for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.